The artist we are going to be learning about is named Jen Aranyi. She is from Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. She has her fine arts degree in illustration, and she is known for her beautiful watercolor galaxy paintings, where she combines her love of working with ink and watercolor paints. The contrast of the colorful sky with the black and white mountains and landscape details make her work so visually exciting. We are going to create our own landscape using this same technique that Jen used. So I am going to show you how to create your Jen Aranyi landscapes, but I'm going to use a Sharpie the whole time. The first few steps I do recommend starting with pencil. We don't need to do step 1 because I already have your paper in a triangle shape for you. Step 2 says add your mountain and ridge shadow lines. So we are going to be adding this line of the mountains, just like the peaks of the mountain. The peak of the mountain is like the tip, the top of the mountain. So we want to have a good amount of space for the sky. So I'm going to go way down on my paper, and it's kind of like a zigzag line, but not a crazy one. You don't want the zigzag line to be too close together where it's all kind of one height. We want to have some higher areas and then some lower areas. So I'm going to kind of follow along with what I'm seeing Jen doing, making some zigzag lines for my mountain. Okay, so now I'm going to extend some of these lines down so we can see which mountains are kind of in front of the other. So something like this, okay? So now that I have my ridge lines, we're going to add the shadow lines. So these 2 steps, you can just do in pencil first and then outline it all in Sharpie. So we're going to start at the peaks of the mountain. Look at how her shadow lines start in the middle of the peak of the mountain. So that's a very tippy top. So I'm going to come straight down in a gentle curving line, not a crazy curving line, a gentle curving line. So from this peak here, I'm not going to worry about the smaller peaks, just these tall, high peaks, curving over, connecting to that diagonal line that came down. Same with this one here. So now these are going to be the shadows, and you can make these as zigzaggy as you want to. She kind of goes in and out in some areas. That's fine. That's up to you how you want to do it. So now step 3 says add shading and texture to mountains. So this part, I would say from here on out, let's just do in Sharpie. There's really no right or wrong. If you make a whoopsie, you're not going to be able to tell. So I would just stick with Sharpie at this point forward. So we're going to make diagonal lines that go the opposite way. So these diagonal lines came down like this. Now we're going to go the opposite way. So we're going to start from this side and come down. So I'm going to do the same thing in my other 2 shadow areas. Notice I'm trying to space them as equally as I can. You just do your best. Do not stress out about this. If it ends up just looking like solid lines, that's fine. It's just supposed to be a shadow. So she also adds some opposite direction diagonal lines, kind of in the mountains here and there, just a few, just to add some texture. She even adds a few little dots. So now that I have step 3 completed, I'm ready for step 4. Step 4 is to draw the lines for the tree trunks. So I'm going to make some vertical lines. Notice that they all are lower than my mountains and lower than those shadow areas, and just kind of spaced out. So those vertical lines are going to turn into little pine trees. So step 5, run, add branches to the trees. So they kind of go up like a letter V. So we keep the top point of that line, come down below, and go up to make the V. And I kind of go out and get wider as I go. So there's one tree there, so I'm going to go ahead and do this on the rest of my vertical lines. Okay, now that I have all my trees completed, I'm just going to go in between the trees with some of my black marker to kind of fill that area so it looks like more of that landscape. So you might end up getting a little bit of Sharpie on the table. It's not a big deal. Just going in between those trees, adding some little like vertical, almost like some up and down, zigzaggy vertical lines to kind of look like grass or maybe more bushes or trees in between your taller pine tree silhouettes. Silhouette is just like a black outline. Okay, so now this part would be complete. Make sure that your name goes on the back in pencil and your room number so that it doesn't bleed through. So this marker bin helps to show you which colors are similar. Any colors that are right after each other in the rainbow. So the warm colors, red, orange, yellow would be a good choice. Or the cool colors, green, blue, purple would be a good choice. That's what Jen used on hers. You can see, I think it was even like a dark blue, almost like an indigo, but you could use purple in place of that and blue and then into green. So you decide how you would like to do that. Some combinations might not be the best if they got mixed, like orange and green. Getting mixed together might not be the best. But you could use like yellow, green and blue, or even like red, purple, blue would be good as well. Do not use any of the neutrals. So just 3 out of these ones here. So I am going to go ahead in with, I think I'm going to do this combination here. So she shows you, it says, number 6, color the sky with 3 marker colors, which I just said. So let's do that. So we're going to color with some red at the top to start. Color with some purple underneath the red. You can see I'm overlapping it a little bit, so some of that purple is coloring over that red. And then the blue. Now, as you can see, she doesn't go all the way down to that mountain line when she colors with the markers. So we're going to leave almost like a little halo, just a little bit of white around. So be very careful. You'll want to slow down. Like I would go much slower than this. I'm going a little faster just so that you don't have to sit here and watch me do this the whole time. But please make sure you go around nice and slow and leave a little bit of that white space. So next we're going to use a paintbrush. So it says blend colors in the sky with a paintbrush and water. Once the sky is dry, add in your stars. So we're going to get a brush and a water cup for that. Now that I have my brush and water cup, I'm going to get my brush wet and I'm going to just blend by pulling my paintbrush down, blending these colors together, just as if I was watercolor painting. Letting that sky kind of mix together. Notice how slow I'm going right up against my mountain line. That way I try not to get too much of that marker color into the mountains. Is it going to happen? Probably a little bit. If you look closely at Jen Aranyi's, you're going to see that even hers went a little bit into the mountain. Like mine went just a wee bit in right there, and that's okay. It does not have to be perfect. Now that my sky is completely finished, I'm going to let this dry, and then we will add the little dots. And notice she doesn't add a whole lot. It's just some dots in the sky. So it says add in the stars. So we will do that right on top once this is completely dry.